Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Hannah Martin, the founder of Talent Ladies Club. And as you know, we're doing a partnership with the NHS, who've just launched their fourth burst of their workforce recruitment campaign, We Are the NHS. The campaign aims to increase pride in the NHS as an institution, increase understanding that the NHS is actively recruiting to fill vacancies, and consideration of a career in the NHS amongst their target audience. So today, I'm really delighted to be speaking to Enna, who is a physiotherapist who specialises in pelvic health. So thank you for joining me today, Enna.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So I've got some questions, if it's okay if I ask you to find out more about your job and what it's like working in the NHS.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so my first question is, what does a typical day look like for you?
Okay, so as you quite rightly said, I am a specialist pelvic health physiotherapist. So that basically means I provide specialist treatment for pregnancy-related musculoskeletal pain, as well as any disorders concerning the pelvis, the bladder, bowels, and the pelvic floor muscles. So kind of in my typical day, in the morning, I will go onto the postnatal wards. So that would be to provide advice to anyone who has had a cesarean section, if they've had an assisted delivery, so a forceps or a kiwi delivery, if they've had any issues with tears, so if they've had a 3rd or 4th degree tear during their delivery, basically to give them an oversight of what recovery will look like in the next 6 weeks or so, put them on the right steps to be able to recover as best as they can, whether that's with exercises or just lifestyle advice. So that will tend to be my morning. And then I'm also treat outpatients. So my outpatient clinic, I tend to treat patients with pregnancy pain. So that would be lower back pain, pelvic pain, upper back pain, carpal tunnel, sciatica, kind of all of those niggly bits that can sometimes crop up in pregnancy that can be really uncomfortable, as well as treating both men and women with any kind of bladder or bowel problems. So that would be urinary incontinence or chronic constipation, for example, and that is either virtually or face-to-face in clinic. But we also run core stability class. So I run a core stability virtual class. We used to do it face-to-face, trying to bring that back, and also some education classes for elective cesarean sections, as well as a healthy pregnancy class. So I say that's kind of a general gist, alongside my admin that I need to do in terms of writing my notes, and also supervising other physiotherapists and things like that, or if we have students as well, taking on students. But I would say typically my hours are kind of 8:30 till 4:30, occasionally doing some weekend work as well.
Oh, so it sounds quite a varied workload, lots of different things.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I like the fact that it's so different.
Okay, brilliant. So how old were you when you decided to become a physiotherapist, and what events led you to making that decision?
So I started playing tennis at a really young age. So I started about 6 or 7 years old. And from that, I kind of played to a county, then a national, and then a semi-professional level through my teenage years. During that time, I was getting injured quite a lot. I was having treatment with physiotherapy, so I got to see physiotherapists quite a lot in that time. So I think when I reached about 16, when I was kind of making that decision about whether I was going to pursue my continue to pursue my tennis career or go back to school to do my A-levels, I was thinking, what is the most logical next step? And because I'd seen physio so much, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a sports physiotherapist. That's what I'm going to do if I'm not going to become a tennis player. So I went back to school and did my A-levels. I was still playing at the same time. But I would say, actually, when I went to school, I don't think I really knew the scope of what physiotherapy actually was, especially within an NHS setting. I think people's initial thoughts of physio is sports, and that's exactly what I thought it was. And actually at that point, I was like, I don't think I'm quite ready to go into physiotherapy yet, because I didn't know enough about it. And it actually wasn't until I was kind of doing my my first degree, which was in sport exercise science, that unfortunately one of my close family members got quite unwell with pneumonia and was admitted onto intensive care for quite a long period of time, a course of 6 weeks or so. And she was treated by physios on intensive care, and I had no idea that physios were even involved in respiratory. and it really helped her. Like it made a massive difference to her recovery, and just it made me want to know more. I was like, okay, there's a lot more to this profession that I don't know. She luckily recovered and everything's all fine now, but it meant that I then went and did some work experience. So I did some work experience for a few days, got to kind of shadow some various physios in different areas like hand therapy in outpatient departments and on neurological wards. And then from doing that experience, I was like, okay, I definitely want to do this. So then I applied for my master's degree, and then that's kind of where I am now.
So was it a conscious decision not to do sports therapy and to move into pelvic? What specifically attracts you to pelvic, kind of specialise there?
So pelvic health is actually a really niche little area of physiotherapy. There's so many different areas you can work in. When you first start and you qualify, you do rotations. So as a junior physio, you'll go in and you'll do 5 to 6 rotations in various different areas. So you want to kind of build up your whole skills. Like you'll be in orthopedics, you'll work on general medical wards, you'll go and work in care of the elderly, you'll work on post-stroke units. And as part of my rotations as a junior physio, I was like lucky enough to be in a hospital that had a pelvic health service. It's not an area that many people have heard of, let alone like had necessarily specialised in. When I was at uni, I had a 2-hour lecture on pelvic health, and that was it. That's about as much as it got covered. So when I got the chance to actually see what it was about, it's something so nice about being able to help women and men with various conditions that people get quite uncomfortable talking about, to be honest. And it's no one teaches us these things in terms of how to deal with going through menopause or having a child and ending up with urinary incontinence. It's a really nice, rewarding area to be able to help people with.
No, I can imagine. So had you always planned to be a physiotherapist? I was going to ask you, but of course you've kind of answered that, really, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what about working in the NHS? I know that you initially started out like wanting to be a sports therapist, but did you ever envisage seeing yourself working in the NHS? So has that always been your plan, or did it sort of come out by accident?
I think once I'd done the work experience, and also when you do your training, you do placements in your university course, and it'll always be in NHS trusts. So you get quite familiar with the NHS working and how they work from the get-go. So quite naturally, you are kind of geared towards working within the NHS. I wouldn't say that everyone does, but I would say the majority of people do, because that's kind of where your training comes from. Which I guess is really nice, just knowing that your university is gearing you for employment in the areas that they feel you would best fit in. So I felt quite confident when I qualified that I was going to do my junior rotations in an NHS trust, and if I had the opportunity to potentially try looking at private and things like that, then maybe. But I think I've always been keen to work in an NHS trust, for sure.
Do you think that the opportunities for training and advancement in the NHS are superior? So you get access to kind of better training or more opportunities to do that?
Yeah, I think they have very close links with universities. So from a get-go, I think you feel like you're really supported into going into employment because of that. And there's that familiarity. I think within working in the NHS, I've definitely had opportunities. I've been given opportunities to progress. I've been given opportunities for extra training. I think a lot of things that people might not realise when you are, especially as a physio, and you don't realise that there's so many different roles or different areas you can go into, that there is a lot of scope to do other things. So if you are more geared to being more managerial, then you can do that. If you want to be a clinical specialist, then you can find, most people tend to specialise, but you can be a clinical specialist in that area. If you prefer to do research, then there's plenty of opportunity to go into research or do a PhD. You can maybe go into more policy-based, and people prefer to do more of that. So they might go work in NHS England, they might go to Health Education England. I think there's a lot more scope than people think in terms of job progression and learning opportunities.
Excellent. So what's the best part of your job? Out of all the things that you do, what do you love most about it?
I think it sounds pretty cliche, but it's helping people. I don't think you can work in the NHS and you can't work as a physio without that innate desire to want to help other people. I think there's nothing better than being able to say, someone who's had been through surgery, or someone who's come in with a really like a long-term illness or a really bad illness, and then being able to be like, I can help you with your independence, I can help you to walk again, I can help you to breathe properly, I can help you go to the toilet on your own, I can help you recover post your cesarean section. It's just being able to give people their independence, and I think enhancing their quality of life. I don't think there's nothing better than that. And I think especially during the pandemic, and the COVID efforts in particular, it was just such a difficult time. And actually just working as a team and seeing how everybody came together in that moment. I know, especially for myself, it was redeployed, and seeing people affected, especially ethnic minority groups in particular, it was really difficult to see. But I think the way that everybody came together in that time to kind of ensure that we did the best that we could to try and save as many lives as possible, with all of those uncertainties around, it was just quite an inspiring time. I'm not saying there's not challenges, in terms of working with the NHS, there is. But I think at the end of the day, if you can help someone to return safely home to their family, I think that just makes the NHS quite a special place to work.
Definitely. Yeah, I've got friends in the NHS, and I know how hard they work, but also the same as you, how much satisfaction they get from their jobs, which some people never see that, they never experience that. You know, they go to work, they earn money, but to have that feeling that when you come home that you've made someone's life better must give you satisfaction that money just can't buy.
No, definitely not. And I think you said that quite rightly. I've had students before, students that are kind of like mature students who have had jobs previous. I still remember there was someone who came in, she was a lawyer and been a lawyer for years, and then had her child, and then came afterwards, was just like, I just want a job where I feel like I'm doing something or helping people in a way. She was just like, I just want to do something different. She'd had pelvic health physiotherapy during her pregnancy, so she was like, I think that's something that I want to go into. So then, yeah, she quit her job as a lawyer. She went back to university, and kind of started from scratch in a way. But she loved it. Like she got a lot more job satisfaction from having done that instead.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to work in pensions who went in retraining as physiotherapy in her 40s, and every day she loves it. I mean, as you say, some days are challenging, but every day is different compared to, you know, when she worked in pensions. She knew what she was going to do every day when she went to the office. She has such a passion for what she does, which is, and I think all of us, that's, you know, we do work because we want to earn money. But we also want something more than that. And I think, like, when people don't find it, it could be however much you earn, that could be quite empty. But to have that sense of your, you know, like you're problem solving every day, you're meeting people and you're solving problems and working out what's going to work for them and making their lives better, I can't imagine how satisfying that could be.
No, and I think it's quite common that, I know I've definitely done it in my career so far, where you will take things home with you. You just do. You'll take certain patients, you'll take certain patient stories, you'll kind of ruminate or just like think about it when you get home. But then also you get so many positives where you can go home and be like, I did this and I helped this person with this situation. Or even if it is just like a box of chocolates that gets brought back to you just to say thank you, like the thanks that you get from people are so appreciative. of the NHS in general and what you can provide. I mean, the NHS in itself provides a healthcare service like no other in terms of compared to other countries, and I think it's a privilege to be part of that.
Definitely. So for your role specifically, what kind of qualifications do you need? If someone was listening to this and thought, oh, I want to be Anna, I want to do what she wants to do, what do they need to do?
I actually think so. Since I've been a qualified physio now for nearly 7 years, but I think there's definitely newer ways of being able to come into physio. So in terms of my pathway was I did my sports science degree. I did my A levels first. One of them being a science. They tend to typically want one science at least. But I know a friend who also did psychology, and that was her one kind of science-based, and she was able to do it. And then I did sports and exercise science as my bachelor's. And then when I decided that I wanted to do physio, they do a 2-year master's accelerated course. So yeah, it's over a course of 2 years. You do all your placements and all your lecturing and things within that time. And then I became a junior physio. Worked in the NHS doing my junior rotations for about 2 years, and then became a senior. I still did some more rotations actually. Quite a lot of people specialised straight then, but I was one of those people that I quite like this one, or I quite like this one. I couldn't think of which one I wanted to specialise in, so I just kept rotating into different areas. But then it got to a point where I was like, no, I think that pelvic health is the one. And I think I did a lot of shadowing. So I kind of used social media, I used my colleagues around me and tried to network as much as I could to try and either observe some clinics or looking stuff up, or there's a lot of virtual conferences, pelvic health, pelvic raw, there's loads of different conferences that you can do online to try and kind of build up your skills in that way, at least your knowledge. But in general, in terms of physio, you can also do apprenticeships. So if you're a therapy assistant, for instance, or a non-qualified support worker, you can do apprenticeships where you work at the same time, and then you can kind of like slowly do your course to become a qualified physio. You can also do have BTEC as well, so as long as A levels with BTEC. There's also T levels now, they're new, but basically it's almost like working on the job. It's equivalent of 3 A levels. But you're basically working in the profession that you want to eventually be in. So that's really new. I think there's only been in the last year. So as well as lots of grants, there's quite a lot of grants and stuff out there to be able to help support you to go into physio. So I think there's a lot of different avenues. So don't feel like if you think you've got your A levels and I feel like I'm stuck, or I did a BTEC, don't feel like you can't find a way to be able to do it. There's always different routes.
I think even like in the case of my friend and the lawyer that you know, even if you have another career and you have a completely different set of qualifications, there are always ways in.
Yeah.
Later in life, so you can change.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of in terms of return to practice as well, in terms of even people that have been other allied health professions and want to switch into others. You have those transferable skills. You'd be surprised how much other jobs and what you do as a lawyer, or if you did as something else, can feed into you becoming an allied health professional or a physio. There's a lot of transferable skills.
Which brings me nicely to my next question, which is, what skills and attributes do you think make someone a good physiotherapist? Like if someone was thinking, oh, you know, could this be a job for me? I'm like this. What do you think is good?
I think like most importantly, I think maybe people might want to necessarily don't get down on yourself if you don't feel like you've got the clinical experience. So if someone's like, oh, I don't have a medical background, or I don't play sports, like that doesn't mean you can't be a physio. I think the most important thing is that you want to help people. So a desire to help people, that compassion, you need to be able to communicate. So clear communication is really important. If you like talking to people, engaging with people, then you have to do that day to day, in and out, with patients of varying levels of communication skills as well. So you need to be able to adjust accordingly. You need to be good at problem solving. You're getting thrown problems every day. So I guess if you don't quite like problems, then this probably isn't going to be the role for you. But if you quite thrive on that and difficult scenarios or trying to figure things out, then it's perfect. You do have to be pretty flexible. I would say that's probably that's not even just a physio thing. That would be kind of like an allied health professions thing. You get thrown into different areas quite often, lots of different high intensity, socially demanding, emotionally draining situations. So you have to be able to kind of be flexible within all of that. Patience is always quite important. You're not always going to be able to figure everything out in that one go, and you might have patients that they want a lot from you, and it's encouraging them to be patient as well. Levels of professionalism, you have to be a professional. I guess that goes without saying for working in the NHS in general, but I think another thing is working in a team. You'll work in a team throughout your whole career, whether it is with other physios, whether it is with other allied health professionals, doctors, nurses, like senior management. You will always in some form be working within a team. So you kind of, if you're good at getting on with people or working within a team, knowing what your strengths and like weaknesses are and being able to kind of utilize that in that setting, then yeah, physio would be good for you. I think key is just wanting to help people. If you're happy to kind of empower people to help them lead the best life that they can, then that's definitely something that you would be good as a physio for.
Brilliant, thank you. And I guess, I mean, I was going to ask how you feel about working for the NHS, but I mean, we sort of covered that anyway. I mean, it's clear you're really passionate about it. And, you know, looking at it realistically, obviously, like any workplace, there's never going to be perfect, but certainly it sounds really interesting and supportive with your colleagues and lots of, you know, opportunities for career advancement. I guess finally, my last question is, what advice would you give to someone who's considering a career switch into becoming a physiotherapist?
I think we've covered it a little, but I think the fact that don't let things like your current profession, age or previous degree stop you. If you want to switch, there's definitely opportunities to do so. So I think don't let that limit you. Work experience is always invaluable. I know it's a lot harder. I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot harder after the pandemic. It is more difficult to, but work experience is really useful because you want to know what you're getting into. And when I first was looking at physio, thinking I was going to be a sports physio, I didn't know the real scope of what physiotherapy was. So I think it's really important that you try and find out as much information as you can. So whether that is talking to other physios, doing work experience if you can, use social media. It's really, there's so much information on there. There's so many physio accounts, physio student accounts. Everyone's quite willing to answer questions if you want to direct message them or tweet them. There's so much information out there that I think it's just a really useful resource. So definitely use social media. If you're thinking of switching, but you're not sure if like fully clinical is what you want to do, and you have other desires to do more kind of managerial or research work, then just know that you can do that even within this. It's not always just being face-to-face with patients. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes. So if that interests you more, this could still be a profession that you want to go into. And I guess, like, lastly, I guess I'm biased, but I would always say to like do it. It's a very rewarding profession, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. I hope I can continue to do it for many years to come, and I don't regret not doing it as my initial degree. I think I wanted to know more about it, but all the skills that you pick up in your other jobs, you will be able to use that to work as a physio and also within the NHS.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Enna, for your time today. And it's really interesting to learn more about your job and what you do. And if anyone is watching this and would love to know more about becoming a physiotherapist, if you search for NHS careers, you can find out more about physiotherapy, the kind of roles that there are, and what you might need for a career change. But thank you once again, Enna, after your long day of work with me. And yeah, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. It's great.